Welcome to Leadership Legacy Radio, where we inspire you to live your dreams, encourage you to take massive action, and be your authentic and genuine self. We focus on 3 pillars. That's empowering youth, equipping leaders, and enriching marriages so that you can go out and dominate your space.
If you're ready to dominate, you're listening to the right show. This is the Leadership Legacy Radio. Now let's go.
You didn't even tell me you pressed the button.
Check us out. Let us know where in the world you are checking in from.
Did the other thing not work?
I didn't put it up just yet.
Oh, okay.
All right. Today, talking to you about one of the 5 keys. All right. Wait till Facebook lets you know that we're live. Again, let us know where you're checking in from. All right. How you guys doing tonight? Feeling good? Sharita's going to start us off tonight. She's going to let us know one of the 5 keys. Yes. She's going to play with your emotions a little bit, and then she'll let you know one of the 5 keys. All right?
What do you mean, play with emotions?
All right. Cool. So, what do you... So, let me start here. So, what do you think is one of the most essential components, one of the keys to a successful relationship and marriage? That was to you.
That was for them?
Yeah, that was for you.
I want to know what they think.
Let us know. Let us know what you think.
Yes.
So, what are one of the essential keys to a successful marriage and relationship?
Let us know. There's so many different things. Christian and I, he put up there one of 5, and that today we're going to be talking about one of the 5 things that we feel like are keys to a successful relationship. But even
Randy, Christian,
even
Carl,
with going over
Teresa.
those things, the top things that we found, oftentimes we feel like, okay, different points in our relationship, some can be more important than another. Christian may feel like something else is more important than I feel. I may rank the number 1 thing as something different from him, even though we're in the same relationship. So that's also important to know, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let us know what your thoughts are. What do you think is one of the essential or a key to a successful relationship? We're waiting for your comments.
Which I'm not sure how many
see a few people live.
Yeah.
A few people joining us live
right now. So if we don't get any comments, we will just jump right into it. We are going to discuss today.
Before you tell them.
Oh.
I was just going to say, maybe start with kind of like an example. And that way you can kind of...
You go for that.
Okay.
That's not my thing.
All right. So if you are to be in a long relationship, one that is built on, a solid foundation, one that's, not only fulfilling but meaningful, there's certain things that you need to do in that relationship. And so oftentimes we take very little things that occur in our relationship for granted. And what we try to do is give you guys practical things to apply to your relationship, practical things that has helped us in our marriage, and practical things that we believe are essential to a relationship. So, oftentimes the message sent isn't the message received. And so whose fault is that? If I was to say, so it's my day to do the laundry. I go and I do the laundry, and when I pull out the laundry, there's a pen in one of the pockets. There was some money, and there was some headphones. All right. And this is in a few people's pockets. So we have 5 people in the house. Doesn't matter whose pockets it's in. Whose fault is it? All right. Is it the person washing, or is it the person that left them in there? And it really depends on, where your mindset is at. Well, you may say, well, it should be the person that's doing the laundry. Well, the person that's doing the laundry may be thinking, well, you should have been emptying your pockets. So that's super important, because it leads you down the path of understanding, right? We often do what I like to call the path of least resistance. All right. The thing that's easiest. Well, it's your fault because you left your stuff in there. Well, it's your fault because, it'll be the person's fault that like for me, if I felt like it was an accident, I was doing the laundry, I'll say it's your fault for leaving it in there. And Sharita can do the same thing and say, well, it was your fault because you were doing the laundry. Who's right? And so that all stems from what we want to talk about tonight. It's critical that you have a good understanding of each other. It's critical that you build a good relationship, but it's going to be surrounded on what we believe are these 5 key principles. Mm-hmm. And we're just going to share one with you tonight. So you got to stay tuned to get the rest of them.
Yep. So today we want to focus on communication. And that's what Christian just described right there, is the importance of communication in a relationship. And this is a skill that every one of us needs in a relationship. And to be very honest, any kind of relationship, whether it's a relationship with your spouse, whether it's a relationship with your children, a relationship with your parents, co-workers, whomever, this is a very, very critical skill that we all need to continue to build. Like, some of us are naturally just good at communicating, but we still need to learn and grow and get better in this area. And it's just one of those things that no matter how long you've been in this relationship, no matter how new the relationship is, because I think about, people that are newly married, they may say, hey, we just love each other so much. We'll never say anything bad or, unloving to the other person. And okay, you do not need this right now. Come back and watch this video or some other kind of teaching, maybe a month from now or 2 months from now, or sometimes, even a week. So this is important no matter how long you've been married, no matter what kind of relationship you are in. We all need to work on communication. It's vital to relationships. So the first tip that we want to give you comes from James 1:19. And it says to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. That's our tip right there. James 1:19. It tells us right there, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. Because by nature, as humans, we are the exact opposite of that. We are slow to listen, quick to speak, and quick to become angry. So we don't want to listen to what other people have to say. We want people to listen to what we have to say. Oftentimes, when we do listen to people, it's to formulate a response to what they're saying. And most oftentimes, a lot of us are just quick to get offended, to get angry about something and take stuff personally. And so we're getting angry very quickly.
Hey, Des.
So it's super important to remember that. Like, that's just the basics of good communication, being quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And like I said, by human nature, we are just naturally, we do the opposite. So we have to force ourselves, we have to practice doing the opposite of that. Absolutely. Right? Do you have anything?
Yeah. So, it's so funny because I wish I could just go and draw on Sharita so that I can highlight this. So why is it, do you think, that we were blessed with 2 ears and 1 mouth. You have 2 ears, 1 mouth. And you were blessed with that because you have a keen ability to not only listen, but understand the message that's being given to you. Oftentimes, Sharita, hit the nail right on the head. We are not listening for understanding. We're not listening for wisdom. We're not listening for communication standpoint. We're listening with the intent that I'm already formulating the answer in my head. And one of the things that I've tried to do, and I started doing this recently, and I don't think anybody's really picked up on it, but anytime I'm talking, I'll start counting now. And listen to what I've done. If I can interrupt your thought pattern, I can get you to focus to what I'm saying. So we're having a conversation, and I know that you want to get a response out. So I'll say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And people don't realize what's going on. They're like, why are you counting? Okay, back to what I was saying. And what you're doing is you're interrupting their thought pattern so that they can focus and forget what they were thinking so that they can listen, and they can listen with intent. Now, these are some of the things that I've learned to just help me better become a communicator, because sometimes I'm going to answer most of the questions that you're asking in what I'm saying. Unfortunately, in the sight of a child, or in the sight of your spouse, if they want to get something out, they already have an answer in their head. And this is typical, and I'm sorry to say this, but this is typical for men. We have the answer. Like, if Sharita comes to me with a problem, I already know how to fix it. I already know how to fix it and give her 10 steps to never let it happen again. But guess what? That's not why she's talking to me. She's talking to me to have somebody to listen to. That's it. Most of the time, she will be telling me what's going on. She'll be telling me what she did. And then she'll tell me what she can do better in the future. And then she will tell me, if she was to do this plan, she will basically just ask, what are your thoughts on that? So she has the problem, talked about the situation, provided a solution, and then asked for feedback. If you do that in every conversation you have, problems are solved most of the time without any argument.
That's awesome. And you got to understand the difference, or just recognize that there's a difference between, men and women communicating. I heard someone say recently, like how when women communicate with each other, if I'm talking to my husband, he does a lot better job at it now, but he used to try to automatically just, solve the problem, whatever issue I'm bringing to him. But, if I talk to one of my girlfriends or my sisters or somebody else, if another female, most oftentimes we're feeding off of each other's emotions. We're not trying to fix the problem. I'm trying to feel what you're feeling. So you got 2 women. Oh, they did what? And then they trying to, feel that same rage and emotion that you're feeling. So it's definitely a difference in communicating, as women and as men.
Absolutely. And what's cool is, Eric, put this comment. He said, I'm learning so much from you guys. And what's awesome is, as we're sharing these things, we're learning so much from our viewers as well. Oftentimes we don't realize that, the things that we're thinking, how it can not only benefit others, but how the perspective of others can help and enhance our awareness. If I was to only think the way that I think and not take into consideration what Sharita thinks or what she's talking about, oftentimes I can go down, a very misguided, path, and then come back and then go into a big argument. So taking the time to listen, taking the time to understand and communicate that you understand what that person is trying to give you is very important to your relationship.
Yep. So then the first tip was from James 1:19. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. The second tip is that arguing is ineffective. We feel like as human beings that we're going to accomplish something by arguing, by getting into an argument with the other person, but arguing does nothing. It's ineffective. Never have I ever seen someone argue with somebody, and then the person that they were arguing with turn around and say, oh, that's a good point. I'm changing my whole perspective and my mind about this whole situation because you were just yelling at me or because you were arguing with me. Like, arguing is ineffective, but as human beings, for some reason, we love to argue. You know, if I'm trying to persuade someone or convince someone to believe what I believe or to think what I'm thinking or understand what I'm thinking, we automatically feel like, okay, I got to argue with that person. I got to argue against what they're believing. I got to argue against what they're saying. And that's not going to accomplish anything. Arguing with somebody is not going to, if I tell Christian, you know, blah, 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 you know what I mean? I just get on, you know, we've never had a disagreement where he's like, oh, babe, yes, all that arguing just helped so much. My whole mind is just changed by what you're saying. And I completely agree with you. Like, most of the time when you're arguing with somebody, you get into an argument with somebody, they no longer want to listen to anything you have to say. It's important for us. It's important for us to communicate because you can get your point across and then you leave the rest. The rest is out of your hands. You cannot convince somebody by arguing with them to agree with you or to understand your point. It's ineffective. And, you know, Desi brings up a great point. She says, have you guys experienced arguing with someone who thinks that they're winning the argument because they're getting louder? Now, I don't want to laugh because this has happened way too often where somebody thinks, hey, this, you know, you're wrong because X. And then you're like, oh, okay. And what I've done now is tell me why. And, you know, I want to entertain this conversation. Tell me why. And then they go through, and then after they're finished, they're like, and I'm like, do you feel better? Right.
And then they're like, do you understand what I'm saying? I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, you didn't make any point. All you did was show that you were arguing for no reason. Like, it was literally, nothing was accomplished. However, now let me show you this. The way that I was calm with you helped us get to a more reasonable level. So one thing that I tried to do, and I'm going to share this story. And my wife used to work in the mental health profession. And one of the things that I had tried to do is I wanted to become better at dealing with difficult people. I wanted to be able to handle people in that specific, you know, example that Desi just brought up. And what ended up happening is I had went into her job and I said, hey, you guys have an anger management class, right? Can I sign up? And then I thought it was a great idea. And she was like, no. You know, because most people that go in there, they have anger management issues. I was trying to get better. So she was like, listen, to just get better, you know, just continuously deal with it. So what I did is I became what we call in the medical profession, a patient advocate. And what I noticed is as people would get upset with my staff and they would try to raise their voice or explain why they were upset, one of the things that I quickly realized is if I spoke to them in a calm voice, they in turn became calm. And they in turn came to my level. So I don't know if you guys remember this, a few weeks ago or maybe a couple of days ago, I had mentioned you need to be the dominating energy in the room. And so it's not often that you need to go to a high level unless you're trying to inspire, motivate, you know, get people fired up. Sometimes you need to bring them down. And so what I started doing is I started talking to people in a very caring, compassionate manner. And I would help them come down to a level that we could understand each other. We can communicate. And what I noticed is as I did that, the people around me were like, you're pretty good at doing this. And I was like, I've had a lot of practice because my wife is really good at this. And I want to get better at communicating with others. And so as I started doing that, you know, I would get a lot of comments. And what I learned is that when I first started doing the job, there was like one or two instances where I went to their level and nothing was accomplished. I mean, nothing was accomplished. it was almost like, what's going on? And then finally I was able to kind of like, okay, this isn't going nowhere. I became more calm. I became more myself, and I was able to help. But it took me like maybe 2 times of a very like irate patient to learn that and kind of go through that. Like I knew what I needed to do, but like they instantly like were attacking my staff, and I'm not okay with that. Like there's 2 things that you don't want to do is 1, attack my team, and then 1, attack my family. Those are 2 things that I tend to kind of like, you're treading lightly. I need you to tread lightly. Like this is a really sensitive subject right here. I need you to tread lightly. But I've become really good at being able to articulate what I want to, so that people can understand this is not beneficial. Mm-hmm. Let's understand what the real problem is. Right. And oftentimes it wasn't even the staff or that specific instance. Mm-hmm. It was something else, marital problems or money problems. It was something different that was personal to them. Yep.
Yeah, and exactly, what you're describing is our next point, actually. It goes into arguing being ineffective, but it also describes our third point. So the first one was be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. James 1:19. The second point was that arguing is ineffective. And the third point comes from Proverbs 15:1. It says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So that's what Christian is, describing, a gentle answer.
You're welcome.
It turns away wrath. It turns away wrath. So not responding, not adding fuel to the fire. So if somebody comes to you at a level 10 in their anger and their emotions, and then you turn right back at them at a 10, it's going to stir up even more anger. And that's what that scripture is talking about. And these next two things we're going to go over are actually going to give some additional ways to help not stir up anger and to turn away wrath, and just to respond with a gentle answer. So typically, first of all, if somebody's yelling or just frustrated or getting really angry at you when y'all communicating, that's because that person feels like they're not being heard. So if I get louder, just like Desi, was saying, if I get louder, then I'm going to feel like my point is getting across, or I'm winning this argument because I'm getting louder. Typically if somebody's yelling, they don't feel like they're being heard.
Do you hear me now?
Exactly. So if when that person is talking and you respond, like Christian said, with a gentle answer in a gentle way, when you're listening to them, if you listen, it's called reflective listening. If you listen with intention, or listen with the intent to understand what they're saying, and just be deliberate about just only listening, not trying to formulate a response. When you do that, you're just reflecting back to them what you've heard. So what you're saying is X, Y, and Z. You're reflective listening. It's called reflective listening. And it's not just basically repeating what they said to them. It's just in your own words. So what I hear you saying is that you feel like I'm not understanding where you're coming from. Yep. You feel like I'm spending too much time doing something else versus spending time with you. You don't feel appreciated. So whatever it is that they're saying, in your own words, you're reflecting it back to them and just listening, fully listening to what they're saying.
And a great thing to do here is if you say it with an inquisitive nature, if I'm hearing you correctly, if I understood what you said, people tend to be like, wow, what a really good listener. He is making sure that he understands what I'm saying, or she's making sure. Powerful. Because you don't ever want to be talking to somebody and feel like everything you said was not even heard.
Yep. And I like what Eric just said. Can you put that up there? Because I want to, Eric says arguing is ineffective, but it's going to happen. One person will need to step back and be level-headed. That's absolutely right. So even if you're the type of person where you're like, okay, well, I don't argue, I'm a peaceful person, you may not when we say arguing is ineffective,
Absolutely.
you may not be the type of person that starts arguments. Some of us like starting arguments more than other people. Some people initiate arguments. Sometimes we'll just find ourselves in arguments.
Yes.
Some of us like starting them. Some of us just find ourselves, in them. And, it's really nothing that you can, you end up finding yourself in those situations, just like
I like what Gary said. He said what we hear is important, and what others hear us say is also important.
Ooh,
so
that is good.
what is said is not always the message that is spoken, is not always the message that's received. So it's important that as you communicate, as you become a better communicator, as you become an expert communicator, that you are able to not only articulate your thoughts, but also be able to do a great job reflective listening, because just because you can communicate well doesn't mean you can listen well. So you need to be able to understand that and make sure that you're able to, give that back. That's one of the things that we've felt has helped our relationship, because sometimes, we've been in a situation where we're talking and I know I've cut myself, maybe checking my phone, and Sharita's she'll walk away because, I just checked my phone. And we need to stop doing that. Listen, you having a conversation, set it to the side. But one thing that I've done well is try to kind of okay, here's what I heard you say. Let me know if I missed anything. I thought I heard this, because I want to make sure just because I checked my phone doesn't mean that I didn't listen. So although that's a bad example, that's a great illustration of what you need to be able to do. You don't want to be checking your phone just to check your phone. All right. So bad on Chris.
You're tuning
you're tuning that person out.
So a good way, we're all talking about Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So a good way to do that is to respond in a very calm way, not add fuel to the fire, and also to do some reflective listening. So when the person is talking, repeat back to them what they just said to you in your own words. Reflect back what you heard.
Yep.
So what I hear you saying is X, Y, and Z. And another good thing to do is also to validate that person's feelings. So regardless of whether or not you agree with that person or not, it's important to validate someone's feelings and not to dismiss someone's feelings. So if someone is talking to you, or your spouse is talking to you, or someone in general is talking to you, and they tell you, oh, I feel sad, or I'm mad, or I'm this or that, I can't turn around and tell Christian, oh, you're not mad about that, or that doesn't make you sad. I can't do that. I can't tell him that doesn't make him sad. Sometimes people can be extra. You know what I mean? Sometimes people can just be dramatic with, some of the things. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. You're not necessarily agreeing with them, because sometimes, for example, my kids, they can be all extra when you give them a consequence or a punishment or tell them to do something. I'm not going to dismiss how you feel, but it doesn't mean that I'm agreeing with you. So when you validate somebody's feelings, you're just saying, okay, so, you feel upset, this makes you upset, and I'm sorry you feel that way, or, this makes you mad, or X, Y, and Z, but you can't tell somebody, oh, you don't feel that way. Yeah. When you're talking to somebody and somebody say, oh, well, you always are on your phone. If I use that as an example, oh, you're always on your phone. And that just makes me feel, or, I just get upset when you do that. Okay, so it's making you upset. So you're validating my feelings, and you're not just, dismissing that feeling, so to speak. Yeah. Because soon as I say you're always, the first thing that typically that person's going to go and look for is that one time that they didn't. They're going to remember that. They're going to go back and say, oh, no, I don't always do that. So we also have to be careful with that. You always, or you this, or you that, which goes to our next point with the you versus us that we wanted to talk about.
Man. So one of the things that you want to remember is you do not want to have a very defensive posture. And that's what this happens. When you say you, or even if you say, I feel like you're always on your phone. You never do the laundry. Those are very aggressive comments, and they're very, they put the person on the fence. And then what you do is now you're going back and forth. However, the best way to do it is, I think it's important that when we have a conversation that we make sure that we set our phones aside so that we can better communicate. It's important for us to, share responsibilities in the household. If I'm doing laundry and you get home, do you mind starting dinner? That comes across completely different than you saying, when you get home, I need you to do this. Not well received. Not at all. Not in the slightest.
That's coming to someone like we all, have heard before and heard it said. It's important to come to somebody with a solution and not with a problem. And when you come to somebody with a problem by saying, oh, this isn't being done, or this is being done incorrectly, then that person is automatically going to get on the defense and they're going to try to justify whatever it is. We're not going to work together to try to come up with a solution. We're not going to work together to try to work through this and to grow together and get better. We're just going to, like Christian said, go back and forth, and we're not going to, nothing effective or beneficial is going to happen at that place. When you're going to somebody and you're pointing fingers and you're coming to them with a problem, come to them with a solution, come to them because guess what? If you're in a relationship, and no matter what kind of relationship that is, parent, child, husband, spouse, or husband, wife, friend, whatever the case is, whatever kind of relationship that is, you want to be able to work together. Like, we're not going to be, on the defense and just going back and forth and on different teams. So we want to come up with something that's going to be beneficial and helpful for us to move forward, so that we're not continuing in this same kind of space, in this same kind of environment. Whatever it is we need to do, we need to do this together. So even if you're feeling like it's your problem, or you may feel that deep down inside, even if it's one person's problem, we both have to work on it together in order for us to move forward, because otherwise we're going to be stuck, and you don't want to be stuck.
Absolutely. And, Eric brings up a great point, and so does Desi. So Eric said, the biggest problem is listening. For him, he was saying sometimes it's dependent on the person. He tunes out the message. So I can bring this up on the screen for you guys to see that. Basically, this is something that I have had to get good at. What I try to do is if the messenger, if I don't agree with the messenger, what I try to do is pick out one or two points that resonate with me, and then I reflect them back, like Sharita was saying. So my understanding is that you blah 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 blah, and am I hearing you correctly? And then instantly it's I break down barriers, because if you always tune this person out, what tends to happen is they're going to come to you with something. They're going to come to you with something very simple, and they're going to see if you're listening. So you got to be very mindful of how you communicate with others. Remember, this is all about communicating, and building your marriage the right way, but it's also an essential component of life. Whether it's on the job, with your kids, with your friends, anywhere in life, you need to become a good communicator. So making sure that not only you communicate well, but you listen appropriately, right? Because sometimes, some of the people that we don't want to listen to have something important for us to hear, right? So just because the messenger maybe isn't your cup of tea doesn't mean you need to tune them out at all times. Mm-hmm. So get what you can, get the points out of it. I remember this was something that I had struggled with when I was really young in my career, because sometimes the people that were, and this goes back to yesterday's, message, like, they weren't living their message. So that really hurt me. Like, you cannot tell me that I need to be, a great leader when you're not, emulating the things that you're saying. You're not modeling what you want me to do. Like, and that really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, you're saying, don't be a liar, but you're lying. Like, you're sitting here doing the same thing that that you don't want me to do. So it's important that you don't always tune out the messenger, right? Mm-hmm. So be intentional and identify some key points in what they're delivering.
Mm-hmm. Can you pull up what Desi
says?
I want to talk about that one. So Desi says, if I cannot respond appropriately, I will be quiet because I know myself. Unfortunately, it has made folks upset, but I'd rather hold my tongue than say something I cannot take back. And you know what? That's exactly what you need to do.
Wisdom, right there.
That
Wisdom.
is absolute wisdom. Yes. I read somewhere that, when you're at that point where it's not going to be a beneficial conversation, you need to take a break. And it typically takes about 6 hours for you to get to that point where you can readdress that conversation. So that's a long time. So you have to remember to actually go back and address it so it's not left, incomplete and, unfinished, and you got unfinished business. So when you see each other again, okay, where did we leave off?
Yeah, still hot.
Yes, you're still hot. So you have to make sure that you intentionally take that step back so that you can address it in a beneficial way, and we're not just going back and forth and arguing. Because sometimes when you do that, you can argue for 30 minutes, an hour, and just go back and forth with somebody and get absolutely nowhere. If I'm gonna spend 30 minutes or an hour, at the end of that, I want that situation to be resolved. And a lot of times, if we're both heated, if I'm angry and you're angry, that gentle answer isn't turning away wrath, because you're not responding with a gentle answer, then we're going to argue and we're going to get absolutely nowhere. And I ain't got time for that. Like, I don't. I could be doing something else. That 30 minutes, I could have been doing something else.
So one of my favorite sayings, as we bring this one in for a landing. So today we talked about, be quick to listen, slow to speak, making sure you understand that arguing is ineffective and that a gentle answer turns away wrath. Understand that communication is a two-way street. It's not linear. It's not just one way. It's parallel. So what that means is, we hit on this tonight, message sent may not be message received. So make sure that you're communicating. Make sure that you're articulating a message of love. When you're listening, make sure you're listening with intent, for understanding, for wisdom, not to answer. And then make sure that with everything, my mom always told me, if you don't have nothing nice to say, this speaks to Desi's point, don't say nothing at all. There's been a few conversations that I've just left where I have not said anything. And I felt like I was better for it. I really wanted to say something. But I felt like even if I was right, even if the message was powerful, it wouldn't have been received. So make sure that you guys understand that, this walk of life takes a lot of wisdom, takes a lot of growth, takes a lot of experience. And I would argue with most people when they say experience is the best teacher. Evaluated experience is the best teacher. And that means me learning from the mistakes that Sharita makes, me learning from the mistakes that I've made, and then sharing with others so that they cannot make those same mistakes. A lot of people want to, I want to live my life. I want to, go through that. Well, why go through it when you can grow through it? Because you getting the lessons from us helps you grow through it, so you have to experience it for yourself.
And the only other thing that I would just kind of throw out there, and just for everybody that has commented and engaged in the discussion, is that a lot of these tips are intended for somebody that you are in a relationship with or want to build a relationship with.
Absolutely.
So just because, somebody random, wants to argue with you, doesn't mean you need to go back and resolve that. You can completely do exactly what, Desi does. Desi said, walk away, and you don't ever have to go back, because it has been people that I know, okay, you just trying to start something, and I'm going to walk away, and guess what? I won't be back. Me and you will not be having many other conversations, if any at all. It will just be a hi and bye if I have to see you, if I have to encounter you, because we're, we live on the same, installation or what have you, or in the same community, or work in the same facility. Other than that, we don't have to work on these things. These things are intended for somebody that you want to build a relationship, improve your relationship with, keep your relationship healthy. So communication is a key to relationships, and not everybody are we called to have a relationship with.
So if this message has resonated with you guys, go out, check out our marriage cookbook website. We're going to be putting a lot of content out for you guys. This is coming directly from our marriage cookbook, which is going to be released in the near future. A lot of the content is from, again, just understanding, doing some surveys, and we're going to be sending out some surveys to get some feedback from you guys. Was this helpful? Was this beneficial? Let us know. If you're watching the replay, let us know, #replay. Let us know if this resonated with you. If there's something that you want to talk about, we're going to be using a lot of these as a platform to not only educate couples, because our heart is with married couples. We also want to invest in leaders and in youth, because with Leadership Legacy, it's all about taking care of people and genuinely wanting to help them. So we want to help marriages. We want to enrich marriages. We want to develop leaders and then empower youth. That is our goal. That is our vision. That's why we do what we do. That's our passion. That's why we do what we do. So we thoroughly enjoyed you guys tonight. Have a great evening. And we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 8. Good night.